Game week is finally back this Saturday night. The Utah Utes head out to Pasadena to take on the UCLA Bruins, and Nico and the rest of the Bruins roster is not ready for the storm that the Utah Utes are about to blow into Pasadena with.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time joining this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. My name is JT Wistrcill, and on today's show, we're talking Utah versus UCLA. Also going to dive into if Utah can have a top 5 offense in this conference, and is the defense still going to be top 3? And in conclusion, we'll close on some of the pro Utes in the NFL, what they were able to do their last opportunity in preseason action. We'll talk about some of the guys that made the roster and some of them who didn't. But guys, I don't know about you. I am so excited to have football back, and I feel like it's going to be a fantastic week for the Utah Utes. I really believe that the Utah Utes are going to have immense success in Pasadena. I think in a lot of ways, Utah is going to dominate the game against UCLA. I just feel like there's a lot of factors going into Utah's favor, despite the fact that they're on the road in this one. And it's obviously, look, UCLA is a Big Ten program that it's never easy to win on the road when you're facing Big Ten, SEC, ACC, any of the power conferences. That's always tough to do. But there's a reason that you've seen Utah pop up, and obviously I'm high on Utah. I talked about them going 10-2 last week. But like, even if you look at the various college football writers, preseason polls, predictions, all stuff like that, Utah frequently in their top 25, just missed out on the official AP poll top 25, I might add to, finishing out at 27. I don't see UCLA anywhere there. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Let's just first talk about why I think Utah is ready to go here. I think it's going to be a massive bounce back season for Utah. And I think Utah truly has the edge in this matchup against UCLA. And by first, just talk about what Utah is going for them. Number one, they have one of the best offensive lines in college football, bookended by what I think is the best tackle duo in all of college football. All those guys too, let's not forget, like, it's a really good unit. Why? All of them have 10 plus starts at least under their belt. Some of those guys that have more, right? Like Jaron Kump, Mokafisi, they got a lot more, but even a Caleb Lomu with his 10 starts last year plus made quite the impression. Also all played together last year, which is great for the communication. You also have Devon Dampier coming back, who had over 30 touchdowns a season ago. We've rattled off a lot of the stats I love about him at different points about the offseason. I mean, how about the most forced missed tackles by a quarterback? Him and John Mateer tied there, over 50 according to Pro Football Focus. Then if we're looking at what else Dampier does well, I mean, he's the only quarterback in the country last year who rushed for over 1,000 and threw for over 2,500. So regardless of what you think of Dampier, there are questions about him. Like, hey, he has not proven that he can week in and out succeed on the P4 level. He did well in his 3-ish P4 games that he played last year, with Washington State being the ish that I would add in there. He did well there, but that's not week in and week out. But based on the success he had, reteaming with the same offensive coordinator, at the very least, Utah should get better quarterback play. And their bad record in one-score games, you think it has a great chance to flip, as we often see that happen in college football. With not just Devon Dampier, too, what does Utah have in the backfield? A fantastic duo. Wayshawn Parker, the leader there, and Naquan Rogers, a really good number 2 back. We've heard they've been really close. I've said before, I think Wayshawn Parker is eventually going to take the job and have a monster season. We'll talk about the pass catchers in a moment, because there are questions there. But that's the offense. That's why the offense should be better. Let's not forget how bad this offense was. We're going to talk about it more in the second segment. This is an offense that only averaged 23 points per game last year. That was good for 14th out of 16 in the Big 12 conference. The reason Utah was still in all those one-score games with a bad offense last year was the defense was fantastic. Second best in the Big 12 in total, holding teams under 23 points per game. Actually, holding them under 21. They were at 20 points per game allowed a season ago. So what's coming back? Several key contributors, including what I feel like is one of the best returning linebackers in the Big 12, one of the best returning safeties in the Big 12, one of the best cornerbacks, that being Lander Barton, Teo Johnson, Smith, Snowden. So those are where I feel Utah is really good, and there's other key returners around those guys, right? Leavani Demooney, Elijah Scooby Davis. Also in the safety end, we think Rabbit Evans could have a monster season. So then it's like, okay, where does Utah have questions? Well, a lot of unproven pass catchers at the P4 level. I like Tobias Merriweather. I think he can be really good. He has not put it all together to have a dominant college football season. A lot of Utah's other receivers have had success at the G5 level, but now they got to do it at the P4 level. So that's where one area Utah's questions. Obviously, Utah's tight end room is a massive question, even how much it'll be used. And then the other one would be defensive line, right? Because a lot of Utah's top players last year either left or even some of the guys are back. They're rotation players, so are they ready to step in and be full-time starters? The reason I think we feel good about Utah overcoming those deficiencies is because they have a history of whether it's with the defensive line, Utah always produces good defensive linemen. I have questions about if this is going to be a Utah defense that has a fantastic pass rusher, but this Utah D-line is going to do their own against the run, and I do think they will win at times and create enough pressure, and I trust Morgan Scalley to get home with some blitzes, right? And then on the other side, it's like, hey, Utah doesn't have great wide receivers. Utah won 2 Pac-12 titles with not great wide receiver play. Like, yeah, they had good tight end play, but we've seen this team succeed without great wide receiver play. And you really only need one pass catcher to step up and come through. So whether that's Tobias Merriweather, Larry Simmons, right? We've seen Devon Dampier step up and be a guy for this team before too. There's lots of guys that when you look at it, you go, okay, this is a Utah team that has lots of potential players that can make an impact. And they've proven even at those questionable positions that they're ready to rock and roll here. Also, let's not forget, banking on another down year for Kyle Whittingham is not the best idea. Kyle Whittingham has won a ton. There are questions about if the game has passed him by, understandably, with how it went last year. But I think the reason everyone's high on Utah is because we can pretty easily look at and go, wow, if they just had better quarterback play, maybe they're in the Big 12 title race. So obviously Kyle Whittingham hasn't forgotten how to coach. He let him and last year's offensive coordinator, Andy Ludwig, kind of let the quarterback development get away from them. And that's why Utah brought in Devon Dampier, who does not have the injury questions and concerns that Cam Rising did coming into last season. So Utah solved their biggest issue. And let's also forget, like, Kyle Whittingham doesn't have 3 down years in a row. It's never happened over the course of his career. I have a very hard time. The last time Utah only won 5 games, they bounced back the next year to win 9. I think Utah is going to go over their win total. And I feel like this is absolutely a team with 10-win potential, with Big 12 title potential. And you cannot say that about Utah's opponent as we shift now to why this Utah team that I feel so strongly about, just laid out that case. Why do I not feel the same way about a UCLA team that had a similar record, right? They were 5-7, finished 12th in the conference a season ago. Well, with Utah, I mentioned all those one-score games, they were right there. With UCLA, there were a couple of one-score games, but also I would much rather trust a program that has won conference championships, 2 of them in the last 5 years, than a UCLA team a year ago that is still trying to get their foot under them, right? You know, Coach Deshaun Foster, it's a new offensive coordinator for them too. And the offensive coordinator and quarterback they brought in versus Nico being a guy who had a lot of success at Tennessee, which is good, but at the same time, he only threw for over 200 yards in 3 of his 10 games against P4 opponents. In fact, the 3 games he played top 10 defenses last year did not throw for over 200 yards in any of them. That's a true freshman starting a quarterback. Do I think he's going to get better? Yeah. Do I think that improvement is evident in game 1 when he didn't even go through spring ball with this current group, when it's a quarterback coach at Indiana who's now coming over his first game calling plays? I just think it takes time for these things to gel. For example, Matt Wells is the offensive coordinator at Kansas State. I didn't love the game plan, and I didn't love a lot of the decisions he made in the game in Ireland during week 0. I think it'll be a similar thing for UCLA. I think we're just going to see this offense that takes time to come together. And UCLA, this is a team that's picked to finish in the middle of the Big 12 as well. So why is that? Well, wide receiver core is a complete unknown. They have Mikey Matthews, but no one on their receiving core has gone over 400 yards in a year. Their tight end is good, but he missed all of last season. And the defense has a lot of unknowns on it too. Their defense was the strength of this team last year. They won a ton down the stretch, but they lost their top tacklers. There's a lot missing from that defense. So we mentioned all those new pieces coming together. Utah has some key new pieces that have to fit, but the fact that the QB and offensive coordinator together a season ago led the 4th best offense at New Mexico on a yards per game basis is an incredibly encouraging sign for Utah, while UCLA is trying to get all of this stuff to come together too, right? Also, the offensive line could be good, but it's a lot of transfers. So once again, a lot of like, how quickly can this all click and come together when you're playing a Utah defense? Morgan Scalley is going to throw some crazy blitzes at you, and it's a quarterback who has not had the same time to acclimate with his receiving core as a Devon Dampier did. Because yes, you can go and throw with your receivers, but it's not this in the offseason, but it's not the same as we went through spring ball together and got that extra time. I think that extra time is going to be one of the difference makers. And I do think Utah is coming out of Pasadena with a W. I think it's going to be a long game for UCLA, but drop your comments below of what you think about that matchup. Who do you think is coming out on top? If you're watching this channel, more than likely, you think it's going to be Utah, and more than likely, you think the Utah offense is going to be better this year, like me. How much better? Where are they finishing in the Big 12? Is the defense going to remain the same? We're diving into that in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Rujit. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rujit Ready. Rujit Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pill that can take hours, Rujit's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, and it kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours too, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked for you, Rujit might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch too. And I love that it's completely online. Rujit connects you with board-certified doctors and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Head to Rujit.com/LockedOnCollege, all caps, no spaces, and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege, and you can use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off when you head over to Rujit.com today. We also want to let you guys know about something exciting the Locked On Podcast Network has going on. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast, hopefully Locked On Utes, even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. You can go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will also be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. And you can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out, and you can enter for your chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards today. So this Utah team has a massive test coming up in UCLA. And then after that, they have a gauntlet coming up of Big 12 play. How are they going to do? Well, I think very well. I think Utah is going to be really good because this offense, I think, is in for a major improvement. As we just talked about in the first segment, where did Utah's offense rank last year? 14th in the conference. Ouch. 23 points per game. But let's not forget, when this Utah team has their guys available, their top options at offense, it's usually a lot better than that. And Jason Beck last year leading the 4th best offense on a yards per game basis, highly encouraging. Even Andy Ludwig, when he had Cam Rising available to him, averaged over 35 points per game. So I do believe this Utah offense is going to bounce back. We mentioned it, the offensive line. When you have an offensive line like Utah has in place, it's ample time for your offense to do everything. Offense is all about timing, right? You know, wide receivers running their routes and making sure they're getting open and in and out of their breaks at the right time. Quarterback getting the ball out on time. But where does that all start with? And running backs too, hitting the hole at the right time. It all starts with the offensive line holding their blocks and opening up holes and providing ample protection for the quarterback to make plays at the right time. Utah has the base of an amazing offensive line, and they should be able to make plenty of plays because of it. Is it going to be a loaded box? Yeah. But Utah's got the guys that can break off a tackle or two, whether it's Wayshawn Parker, Devon Dampier, or Nico Rogers, that can get that extra yard and then open enough up in the throw game where Utah can do something there. And we mentioned too, we didn't talk about it a ton in the first segment, but there are some receivers in this room that I like, where it's like, hey, you just need to do enough. There's several guys in here where, are they Britton Covey, Devon Valley? I don't know that, but are they capable of making a catch or two to move the chains? I definitely think that is the case here. And you have a quarterback who also was only sacked 5 times last season, like not against the P4 teams, 5 times the entire season. So what does that mean? He's very elusive. He's going to buy time for his guys to get open and make plays downfield. And I think that's what they're going to do. So I think this Utah offense is in for a major improvement. They were projected to finish 12th last year. I think they are skyrocketing up the charts this coming season. I right now have Utah as having the 5th best offense in the Big 12. And once again, before you call me crazy with that, I just go back to the same thing I said. Offensive line is one of the most important positions in football. How much time are you given to make your plays and make things happen? Utah's going to have plenty with an amazing offensive line and a quarterback who's proven he can succeed at the collegiate level, and I feel like is ready to do things at the P4 level. So I have Utah as the 5th best offense. I'm going to give Tech the slight edge. I know they just had their injured running back there, but they have some amazing pass catchers there. Morton has been doing his thing at Tech or just in the Big 12 now for a couple of years, so I like what he brings to the table. Iowa State, we got our first look at their offense this past weekend. Rocco Becht running the show. Hanson, the back, looked good. Didn't love what I saw from their offensive line. Saw just enough from their pass catchers. Shout out Utah high school grad, Dominic Overby. I think he went to West Jordan, so it was really cool to see him just to get a play, make an action. Obviously, we're all Utah football fans, but we also love the high school talent in the state of Utah, so that was cool to see. I think ASU's offense is going to be great again. They get 4 offensive linemen back. Still got Jordan Tyson there on the outside. Lost Scadaboo, replace him with Udo, who's a talented running back from Army at over 1,000. And Levitt's probably the best quarterback in this conference right now. So I would go ASU next. But my number one offense is going to be Baylor in this, because I do think the Bears, with a ton of returning production on offense, like a bunch of offensive line back, a couple of talented pass catchers, really good back, and Sawyer Robertson, also one of the best quarterbacks. I'll put them just above. But like Utah versus TCU, TCU has nowhere near the talent that Utah has in the trenches. And do they have some talented players coming in at running back and receiver? Sure, but it's all new and it's all transfers, and that scares me a little bit because they haven't proven they have that chemistry and connection with Hoover. And I know we're saying the same thing about Dampier, but the similarity is you have Dampier and Jason Beck have worked together. You got guys who were with Jason Beck last year too. Naquai Rogers worked with Devon Dampier. Ryan Davis worked with Devon Dampier, right? And they just don't have the offensive line that Utah does, where if these teams need to, it takes more time to get on the same page. I'm not scared of that because you have the offensive line to provide you with that time. So I have Utah being better than TCU. I also have them being better than Kansas State. Matt Wells, first year as an offensive coordinator, I just think there's going to be some growing pains. Also, we don't know how long Dylan Edwards is out for. That was a big loss for them, one of their top backs. Still have another really productive back. Couple of guys at receiver. I like Avery Johnson a lot. He's really good. If Kansas State has a better offense than Utah, I'm not going to be surprised. But to me, this Utah offense, the O-line, the running back, the quarterback, enough playmakers at the pass catcher spot that just need to do some things. You don't need to put the game on their back. That's enough to me for what I do believe will be a top 5 offense in the Big 12 this coming season. So is Utah's defense going to be in the top 5? I do think so. All offseason, I have said Utah's defense takes a slight step back to me. Why do I say that? You don't lose the talent that you lost in the trenches to me and not replace them with proven production and get better. There is no Keanu Tanavasa back. There is no Junior Tafuna back. There's no Samote Peppa back. There's no Van Fillinger back. There's no Connor O'Toole. That's 5 guys who were key cogs in Utah's defensive line success last season. You get Logan Fano back. That's big. Let's not forget Logan Fano, when he was last really healthy for Utah, had 3.5 sacks early on before an injury. Last offseason, spent the whole offseason rehabbing. This year spends it training. Probably looking at Utah's sack leader there. Then defensive tackle, you get Dallas Fakalahi, who last year as a true freshman showed a lot. I think he'll be the best D-tackle Utah's roster has this year. Then you get Vimahi, who's been with this Utah team for a very long time, even the COVID season back then. But what about Vimahi? He's one of those guys that will do his job well, but to me, he's not a game wrecker or anything like that. And then the other defensive end spot is very open. Probably John Henry Daly based on the reports that we've heard, but he hasn't proven a ton at the P4 level or just in college football. Very good in high school, but got to prove more. And the depth after those guys are massive question marks. We've talked a lot about that all offseason, is there are huge question marks of which guys are going to step up along that defensive line. So that's a part for me where I'm like, I am going to move them back from, they only gave up 20 points per game. This year, I've also only said slight step back. So I don't think this is a Utah defense that falls out of the top 5 of the Big 12. And you're looking at the top 5 defenses in the Big 12 a year ago, BYU at 19 a game, Utah only allowing 20 a game. That's Arizona State at 22, Houston at 22, Iowa State at 22, Colorado at 23. I think Utah's defense is going to allow somewhere between 21 to 23 points per game. Right now, I'll say they allow 22 points per game because I'm just not sure the pass rush is going to be as potent, but you get 3 returning linebackers that have all proven that they can make plays at this level. I think Jonathan Hall showed a lot of growth as the season wore on. So Utah's secondary, Teo Johnson, Rabbit Evans, I think the safety tandem is actually the best thing that Utah is going for them. I feel the best about that, even better than I do about the offensive line in some ways, just because I have some questions about that interior, even if those questions are like, hey, it's still a really good group. I just don't know if it's the best in the country when I look at it there. So versus Teo and Rabbit, I think both those guys have a chance to be all Big 12 candidates there. And the offensive line, I have questions at one of the spots. At safety, I really don't have many questions there. Cornerback, Smith Snow and Elijah Davis are back. You get Blake Cotton, a UC Davis transfer who's just played a ton of college football. And this Utah team has a history, especially in the secondary, right, of replacing that production and making play after play with them as well, or they're sliding those guys in seamlessly and them making play after play too. So I still think his Utah defense is going to be really good. A lot of people don't think there's going to be a drop-off. Talking to them at Big 12 Media Days, even the people around this Utah team, I just said, like I said, I have to see it to believe it. To me, if I'm going to project you to be better than last year, I want to see the reasons why Utah's offense being as much better as it is a reason why, like Devon Dampier, Jason Beck, those are all reasons why Utah's offense should be better. Who on Utah's defensive line has shown me that they're ready to step up and fill in for Junior Tafuna, for Keanu Tanavasa, for healthy Connor O'Toole? And I know he wasn't always healthy, so that might be the argument. It's like, hey, just get a guy in who's healthy and he might be better. And that's fair, but that's something that just remains to be seen. So to me, I do have Utah taking a slight step back this year. I have Tech as the best defense in the Big 12. That defensive line is absolutely nasty, and they got players at every level, especially at line. They got a great linebacker up there too. Iowa State, their linebackers are back healthy. They're dangerous. They're another team with pass rush questions, but they were able to do enough against Kansas State that convinced me they're going to have a really good defense this year. Go Kansas State in there at 3. Their pass rush actually looked pretty nasty to me. Got some good linebackers, some good play in the secondary. Then I went Utah at 4. So I have Utah taking a slight step back because of the questions I have about their ability to get after the quarterback. Really hope those guys on the defensive line play this clip and prove me wrong. I would love to say Sac Lake City is back and declare the mayor, hopefully Logan Fano this coming season. But because of the unproven nature over a 12-game season, I do have my questions about how that group is going to do. Still really good. Morgan Scally can draw up blitzes and create pressure. And once again, like I'm picking Utah to win 10 games. I think it's going to have a top 4 defense in the conference. I think it's going to be a really good defense. But to me, they're probably 2 points per game worse this year than they were last year because of the defensive line questions. Maybe, though, because they don't have as much pressure on them, being as the offense can carry their more weight and don't have as many 3-and-outs, a fresher Utah defense will allow that unit to eat and perform better. Hopefully, that will be the case. But it remains to be seen. I have Utah as the 4th best defense in the Big 12 and the 5th best offense in the Big 12. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. These guys all performing and balling out for Utah. Hope to soon be Pro Utes. It's the reason we have some of the questions. I mentioned Junior Tafuna, Connor O'Toole. Those are guys who are now making plays at the NFL level. But how are they doing so far? Let's check in with some of our Pro Utes coming off their 3rd and final preseason game. We're going to do that in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th, just a few days away, is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on the NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So you can take a flyer on the MVP race, crown your champion in August, or parlay your division winner for a dark horse. I'm a big Vikings fan, so one thing I'm looking at is I think Justin Jefferson has a chance at Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think J.J. McCarthy, their quarterback, is going to have some crazy year, so I think Justin Jefferson has a great shot to win Offensive Player of the Year. He'll have a great year. I think the Vikings roster is really good. They'll have a good year. That'll put him in the Offensive Player of the Year discussion. Whatever bet you're feeling, visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because FanDuel is available, and Future Days is 1 day and 1 day only. You can play your game with FanDuel today. The college football season is right around the corner, which means preseason in the NFL just wrapped up. And it's time to see how the Utah Utes did through another week of preseason action. Got this from the Utah Athletic Department website, where they talk about how all the current Utes in the NFL are currently performing. As of the time we are recording this, there are a lot of Utes in the NFL. It's currently 33. Actually, the number that probably is a little bit down now. A couple players were unfortunately waived tonight. You had Mekhi Bernard, Cole Fotheringham, Zach Moss, Tyler Huntley, Jackson Barton, just over the course of fall camp at one point or another. Those guys were waived. Wish them the best and hope to see them back on roster soon. I feel like the first quarterback injury, Tyler Huntley, is going to be back in this league, right? He's been a guy who's consistently, you can put him in games and your offense can have stuff happen. Is it going to go great? No, but he's a more than adequate backup quarterback in my eyes there coming up. So how did the current Utah Utes do in some of these preseason games? We have guys like CODY Barton for Tennessee. He started at linebacker in the game for the Titans. He had 2 tackles there. Jackson Barton, who we mentioned was waived now, started at right tackle in the Eagles game there for Cleveland. Miles Battle had 3 tackles in his preseason game against Minnesota. You had Cole Bishop, who started at safety. The Bills lost to Chicago, and that was one where give Caleb Williams credit. He put on quite the show, but Bishop's a guy who's continuing to grow into his own, have success. So he is a guy who didn't play in that game. Julian Blackmon is in New Orleans. He didn't play. I think he's going to make the roster. I feel good about that. Garrett Bowles obviously didn't play. Terrell Burgess, another guy who didn't play, but Bowles is obviously going to make the roster. We'll see on Burgess. Hopefully he does. Britton Covey had 3 receptions for 13 yards. Also, there was an awesome photo of him and Tyler Huntley saying what's up to one another. So cool to see 2 Utah Utes legends who accomplished so much at the Ute together. That 2019 season, one for the record books, obviously, and so many other good seasons as well for just this Utah team that they've been a part of and had just that incredible success too, right? So Covey, awesome to see him and Huntley together. Diabate didn't play for the Browns against the Eagles. Braden Daniels played as a reserve for the Dolphins in their game against Detroit. Jonah Ellis started outside linebacker against Arizona. He had 2 tackles, 1 tackle for loss and QB hit. I think Ellis is once again going to be a key depth piece for that Denver defense that showed a lot of promise and caught a lot of people by surprise last year. I love his ability to rush the passer. Cole Fotheringham, even though he was waived, did have 1 reception for 6 yards in the game against Minnesota. Lucky Fotu didn't play. He's on the Raiders now. Matt Gay, the Washington Commanders kicker, made a field goal, 2 PATs, and had 4 kickoffs in the Commanders game against the Bengals. Mentioned Huntley getting some action for the Browns, even though he was waived, was 10 of 13 for 71 yards. Also ran it 3 times for 5 yards in total. Jalen Johnson, one of the best corners in the NFL. Not surprising he didn't play. Dalton Kincaid, a big part of the Bills' offensive weaponry as a tight end. He didn't play. Tao Laumea played as a reserve for the Seahawks. I think he's going to be a reserve guy for them this season. If there's an injury, he can come on in. Devin Lloyd played for the Jaguars against New Orleans, started at linebacker, 2 tackles for loss in the TFL. Interested to see the kind of year that Lloyd has too. Jacksonville really trying to turn things around. Then you get Caleb Lohner at tight end. In Denver, he was able to bring in a catch for 4 yards. Love seeing Lohner, so new to the game of football, able to get opportunities at the NFL. Connor O'Toole for the Seahawks. He had a sack a few weeks back, but he's a guy who had a tackle in their game against Kansas City, and I think could have some big moments and big plays over the season. Tim Patrick didn't play for Detroit in their game against Miami. He's going to make the roster. Clark Phillips didn't play in the game against Tennessee. I believe he's going to make the roster. Corrine Reed had 3 tackles in the TFL. Hopefully he's going to make the roster. And I am recording this midday on Sunday, guys. So if there was a roster cut, I apologize for not listing it yet. Nephi Sewell, still a linebacker for the Saints, played against Jacksonville, saw a little bit of action. Dorian Singer, now a wide receiver on the Jaguars. He had a reception for 8 yards. And how about Junior Tafuna? He played as a reserve in the Houston game. Would love to see him make the roster. Sione Vaki, Detroit Lions running back, and used to be safety, but now does a little bit of everything for the Lions. He had a really good game. He had 5 carries for 30 yards, had 2 receptions for a loss of 2, unfortunately. And then he had a forced fumble and a tackle on special teams. Vaki's a guy that I'm just excited to continue to monitor and watch his progress. I still wish he came back for another year because I think he would have been absolutely transcendent for Utah this last season if he would have returned, but still doing his thing in the NFL. Then you have Zamiah Bond, who started a cornerback for the Vikings. He had 2 tackles, 1 QB hit, and 1 pass deflected. He's done a lot of good things, and I do believe he made the roster. I think the Vikings are done with their cuts. I mentioned I'm a Vikings fan. Love having a former Ute on the Vikings. It's been a long time since that's been the case, so love seeing Vaughn in Minnesota. Devon Vele didn't play in his game. He was just traded to New Orleans. Excited to see what Vele can do down there. And Yasmin played as a reserve. Curious to see how much action he might see this season. If Thomas Yasmin can stay healthy, I just think big things are coming his way. And speaking of big things, it's game week, guys. Utah football, UCLA. It's been a long countdown to Pasadena, and we are just a few days away from kickoff, 11 p.m. Eastern time. It will be 9 p.m. Mountain time. It's the best game on the late night schedule. I've talked about that a little bit before. I feel like not enough people are talking about, like, yes, we go Ohio State, Texas, to then talk about the next best game coming up after that, right? Bama, Florida State. But the nightcap, Clemson, LSU. After that, the true nightcap, little old Pac-12 after dark throwback, Utah, UCLA. Think it's going to be a fun game. Think Utah is going to put on a show and show out. However you're feeling, drop your comments below. Which former pro Utes are you looking forward to watching this NFL season? And also just let us know as well what your predictions are for the Utah Utes this coming year. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. Make sure you join us tomorrow as we continue to get you ready for Utah versus UCLA. Football is back, people. Just a few days away as we gear up for the big one in Pasadena, Utah versus UCLA.